The Framingham and Lowell Railroad was incorporated in 1870 to connect the bustling rail hub of Framingham with the mill city of Lowell. The 26-mile line opened in 1871, allowing a direct connection to the Merrimack Valley. An interesting aspect of the Framingham-Lowell is that it crossed the B&M twice. Once at South Sudbury on the Central Mass branch, and here on the Fitchburg Division Mainline at West Concord. The Framingham and Lowell was a sturdy, well-built railroad with passing sidings and semaphore signals, and operated much in the way of a mainline railroad for most of its 111 years as a complete, uninterrupted line. After changing hands several times, the line came under the control of the Old Colony Railroad in 1886, and subsequently part of the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad when the Old Colony was leased by the New Haven in 1893. All regular passenger service ended in 1933, but the New Haven Railroad did run northbound ski trains into the 1950s. On May 21, 1967, Steamtown, USA founder F. Nelson Blount's Canadian Pacific 462 steam locomotive, number 127, operated an excursion from Boston to Framingham and then up the Framingham and Lowell before returning to Boston. Despite the early end of passenger service, freight on the Framingham and Lowell remained constant, and 50-car freight trains from Providence were the norm into the 1960s and 70s. These freights were often powered by an impressive array of diesel locomotives that frequently included Alco FA1s, a model not commonly seen in the Merrimack Valley because the Boston and Maine didn't have any. Local freight BX6 out of Framingham worked the line as well. The financially struggling New Haven was rolled into the new Penn Central Transportation Company in 1968, which immediately sought to axe portions of its overwhelmingly massive new system. Under Penn Central, service did decline, although into the early 1970s, lengthy Penn Central freights with a variety of power did run up into Lowell. After several years of bankruptcy and financial issues of its own, the Penn Central became a part of Conrail on April 1, 1976. Ownership of the Framingham and Lowell did not pass to Conrail in 1976. Instead, was taken up by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Commonwealth contracted with Conrail to operate the line, and after the last train north of South Sudbury in August 1982, the tracks from South Sudbury here to West Concord were taken out of service. The line was no longer a through route, and so the diamond crossing over the Fitchburg Division Main line of the Boston and Maine was no longer relevant. Today the diamond was relocated to a small park nearby and could be seen on display. The old Framingham and Lowell changed forever after Conrail stopped running north of South Sudbury in August 1982, and the diamond crossing here at West Concord was removed in November 1982. Despite the severing of the line as a complete route, customers on the northern section still needed rail service, and so that service was transferred from Conrail to the Boston and Maine. The B&M would operate the line north of West Concord as their Acton branch, and they used the connection track with their Fitchburg Mainline to serve the branch. 3 lumber yards in North Acton were served, Wicks Lumber and Rex Lumber, and a third, the Acorn Company, which made modular homes. The Boston and Maine and later Springfield Terminal, aka Guilford, used both conventional locomotives and a trackmobile to service the customers on their Acton branch. At the same time, the remaining customers at the extreme northern end, in Lowell and Chelmsford, were served out of Bleachery Yard by a switcher. Freight for the Acton branch would arrive on the B&M's Fitchburg Division Main line out of Ayer, usually with local freight AY3 or AY4. Interchange was done on the connection track at West Concord. In the late 1980s, service on the Acton branch, the old northern end of the Framingham and Lowell, was transferred one last time, from the Boston and Maine to the Bay Colony Railroad. The Bay Colony, an independent short line, used GE 44-ton diesels to supply the lumber yards in North Acton and interchanged with the Boston and Maine, Guilford at that point in time, at West Concord. Towards the very end, in 1990, a passenger excursion was operated on a rainy September day in open gondola cars. Following the end of rail service, the rail sat dormant for many years, and in 2018 began to be removed for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, which now occupies the old Framingham and Lowell. This side of the diamond has a bit more positive history. Today the line hosts commuter trains on the old B&M Fitchburg Division Mainline. Freight trains did run through here until the 1980s, but today take a different route on the Stony Brook line up from Ayer, Massachusetts to Lowell, then the New Hampshire Division Mainline to Lowell Junction.